Welcome to Mindful Drawing. I'm Roxas Fun, and I'll be your guide on this meditative practice that enters into a space of creativity and expression through the act of drawing. This week we're going to explore weaving, a weaving of our expression out onto the paper, a weaving of lines with our breath coming into that larger network and connection that we can make by bringing together the many parts into a greater whole. Once we establish a space on the page with a horizontal and vertical rhythm, we're then going to look into it and find new connections, new relationships of shape, of pattern, of overlap and intersection. All you need to get started is a pad of paper or sketchbook, something you can draw on, and a pen or pencil you like to draw with. Give yourself a little bit of time to enter into this space, and let's draw together. I don't know what the theme is for this one. I did a little sketch, and it's, I guess, kind of a weave, kind of a back and forth, making a little bit of a grid or a network, some kind of fabric on the paper, and then seeing what we can draw into it. Start with a scrap piece or a page in the sketchbook, and just begin with a series of generally perpendicular, yes, horizontal and vertical lines, so you can go in any direction you like. Might work back and forth between both our hands for the warm-up, just making a mark there vertically down the page, and then somewhere bisecting it, a mark horizontally. Whatever distance starts to feel right. I'm going to do a few with my right hand, my primary hand here, and just down to up, up to down, oscillating between the horizontal and the vertical. And after you've done a few in multiple directions, just bending that wrist, rotating the arm, adjusting the fingers to different positions. One thing we'll explore is not having to fill out everything as a grid. It's more about the crossing over and the play of where some areas get dense and others loosen up in the weave. I take a few moments to do a few with my offhand, just to see what attention that brings into my space, as it's a little bit more of a challenging movement to keep the mind focused on it, to draw straight or steady. Wakes up that other side of the brain a little bit for some other control that maybe we're not used to. And at any time during the exercise, we can switch back and forth a little bit just to allow that influence or intersection of something a little different to push ourselves into a little broader space of attention. But we'll start with something like this when we move into the bigger exercise, and then use that space to craft some other interaction there within. As we move to a new page in the sketchbook or a new sheet of paper or just somewhere else on that same one, just take a moment to give those hands a little stretch, get some blood flowing to them so they don't pool up too much as they draw in kind of one position for a while. So just flexing in and out, turning them left and right. Nothing too strenuous, just nice and warm. Wiggle through the fingers. We'll take a deep breath in to set the shoulders and the spine, expand them outwards, and then on the exhalation to let them settle into their sockets, to realign and find a balance to support us during the exercise. And give it one more breath for good measure. Expanding and letting things fall into their place. Maybe a little movement just to ensure it all settles comfortably for the next 25 minutes or so. And we'll begin again, whichever hand feels right to you. Finding a place and making that first mark, horizontal or vertical, to just give some space to that territory on the page, open up the emptiness a little bit, and draw as long as it feels comfortable in the movement, and then finding a position in the alternate direction, roughly perpendicular, and crossing that page until you've crossed the mark, finished the run, a coordinate, a point, an intersection. Now that we've marked the page, we can begin to bring our breath into the action, using that as a focus away from the rigidness of a grid. Breathing in, perhaps closing the eyes, bringing the hand to a place of readiness, and on the exhalation, drawing a line with the breath, using the first few to get into the rhythm. And if the breath ends, we can just end the line. Maybe it crosses, maybe it doesn't. Breathing in again, letting the eyes close and disconnect from the drawing, letting the hand find the place. And on the exhalation, breathing with the breath, moving with the breath. And when it finds its release and completeness, the line ends as well. Following on the cue in to establish within ourselves and out, bring that breath onto the page, alternating between the horizontal and the vertical, letting the hands feel for position, guide the starting place, and the breath guide the completion of the line there on the paper. In to begin and out to exhale some completion. We begin to find an interaction with your breath, finding that space where you can modulate its frequency, the speed that the breath exhales from the body, and the speed of the hand, aligning perhaps to get greater distance, in to establish, out to follow the breath into a mark of expression. As you draw, the lines may remain straight or wobble a little as our attention is inward to that breathing. And if it feels comfortable, you can bring the attention to the act of marking as the breath has established a rhythm that we keep oscillating as our base, our eye can be drawn to the tip of the pen, our mind inhabiting the space of the hand, holding steady, moving at a consistent, smooth pace. If it feels comfortable to you, the practice can incorporate parallelness or straightness to the line, but it doesn't have to. If you want to let them wobble naturally, feel free. And once you've set that mindful attention to your act of drawing there, use a few rounds of breath to establish with it, and then sink in that exhalation, mindful presence with your act of drawing. The breath, a gentle guide, a breeze, suggesting when one motion begins and then motion ends. Becoming fluid with that horizontal and vertical, finding smoothness in the attention to that extension of your body through the arm, through the hand, through the pen or pencil. Weaving together that empty space and fibers of the page with the cycles of breath, cycles of presence with action. And as we increase the density here, some areas may begin to coalesce around increased density, maybe areas of slowness that are within our arms' general range of comfort to drawing, other areas of looseness or speed at the ends of our extension, natural motion. You can let the eyes back in to this space of action, just observing the field. Perhaps they make light suggestions of where to begin the next, emphasizing or enhancing the tightness or looseness of the weave, perhaps bringing in evenness, whatever draws you in through the eyes, their presence of observation, tracking through the field, emerging on the page. As the paper is becoming dense, the points of engagement, difficult decisions beginning to creep in to our action, distracting perhaps a little from the breath. And take a few final rounds of inhalation to establish maybe a couple breaths before we draw any line. Let our hand choose the location, let our eye track the exhalation of the breath. These few breaths a chance for you to come to completion of this phase of the exercise, to enter into the network of relaxation. As you complete your next cycle of breath, come out and observe the entire picture. And now the eyes coming back into the tracking, close them for a second, and then the opening, choosing an intersection, whichever one comes first, perhaps marking it with a little dot. And within the space of this woven, gridded interaction, making a small shape, circle, diamond, square, a squiggle. I think I'm going to go kind of a diamond or turned rectangle or something that marks that point of interaction, of crossing, of weaving above and below. And working out from there, somewhere nearby, finding another, and making that same shape in a new context onto the paper. Working into new locations, letting the eye be the guide to the intersections that stand out, the place of beginning, this new bounding of space on the page, entering in with the discreteness to the looseness of the weave, working within its rhythm and measure. And as you draw your shape, you can experiment with different ones that don't have to all be the same. It can be a playfulness, mind resting within one cell of the grid. They can cross, grow larger, shrink, stretch, whatever feels right in each moment of expression. Together they will develop into a larger whole combination of the underlying sequence and this new figure, finding shape within the grid space. Now that a few shapes are emerging there in the page, we bring our attention for a couple of minutes to how we draw that shape. Which direction do you begin, clockwise or counterclockwise? A mindful observation. No need to be consistent or concerned with how it starts and ends. But see if there are some patterns to notice with greater nuance your presence here in the action of drawing. Moving around a center marked by the intersection, lines in space, points established by extensions of our breath, our action and presence in the paper, now defining new elements, new relationships, distant from the origins, perhaps. Figures with their own logic and extension into this weave space. And if you've observed some patterns, for me it's a counterclockwise motion that seems to jump often from starting at the top or the left. And bring a few rounds of breathing to enter back into that space and bring some consistency to it. So we find the center. As we begin to draw, we use our attention to this space to choose. I start at the top, I move to the left, around, one segment at a time. And whatever that is for you, I start somewhere, I move in a direction, I move in a way with a quality, and I return to complete the shape. Breathing in as we find the place, breathing out as we extend that point into a new shape, with new presence on the page, new connections across the in-between territory. And if we start differently, recognizing that as part of the practice of our presence gets pulled in to the drawing, or perhaps just realigned in our position, our body finds a new extension and comfort in a certain way of moving or drawing. I'm trying to come back to a rhythm of regularity for a bit to practice that presence, starting here, moving this way, moving this speed, completing here. You can continue on with this pattern for a while and should have a lot of lines to work with, extending deeper into that network. It will take 5 minutes or so to just draw freely in our own space. And you're welcome to explore anything there, perhaps finding new connections between the shapes, filling in some of the empty space with light lines, moving at a different speed, intensity, perhaps finding boundary clusters and regions, tracking along their exterior. Playing as you dive through the voids, bringing wholeness to the separate parts, or allowing them to loosely grow and define the space of the page. This is a chance for you to play in the territory that you've created there on the paper. Spend some time there, exploring, playing, finding new things in that space you've made. What did you notice about your energy, your intentions, your presence? Did you find a space of relaxation, creativity, inspiration? Myself, I found that I might have a lot of work on patience today, rushing a little bit to draw something, and giving a little conscious energy in the final minutes of reflection of the exercise to slowing it down, letting the something be eventually. The drawing can always be worked on again later. There's no time limit pushing it to completion. It's about the presence in the act. But sometimes moving quick or moving slow aren't about finishing, they're about the expression of the line, the way it feels from the hand to the pen, the mark it makes on the paper. And relaxation doesn't have to come with stillness or slowness. Just a integration between us and the rhythms that excite or move us, that give us a chance to be present and absorb what's around us. These things that we identify towards the end of any kind of exercise, whether that's physical, a workout, a yoga practice, this drawing, things of work to build resilience of mind or body. Fatigue sets in. It's easy to succumb to it, or to work through it and let it sometimes lead us astray. We can always, at any time, when we're able to recognize that fatigue through practice of attention and mindfulness, choose to take a break, or perhaps bring more consciousness to our action to avoid injury or frustration or whatever might come from spending too much time in that space of fatigue. As we come to the end and the hand has been working, maybe both hands, wanted to switch it up, give the wrists a good series of rotations, grasping the hands, just moving them around in a circle clockwise and then counterclockwise, switching up the orientation of the grasp and giving it another spin, working out any of those creaks and cracks, letting those fine motor control muscles squish out any acids built up and give them a nice stretch over the space of the drawing. It feels its maximum tension, just letting them relax there on the page and absorb maybe some of the character of the ink and the paper fibers. Is there anything you can notice and feel there, the disruption or marks left or not left? Take a breath in, and with a big exhale, let it out to come back into your physical presence of the space. And prepare for the next part of your day. Welcome back into your space. I hope you enjoyed the exercise and found in it some relaxation and some presence to extract your own creative potential there through this act of drawing. Or maybe we just drew a few lines in the horizontal and the vertical, or whatever angle you might be working with, a way to get out some of that internal energy and flow onto the paper, to practice our steadiness and our presence, and to maybe find a few clusters of shapes that are interesting to the eye. Whatever you may have found in the exercise, let me know in the comments below how it turned out for you, and give it a thumbs up if you liked what we do here with Mindful Drawing. Hope you can join us each week for new episodes on Wednesdays, or you can join us live on Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. via Twitch at Rooks is Fun, or through Mindful Pratt and their weekly drop-ins. To bring a little creativity to the rest of your day, whatever you do, draw well. Thank you.